What's up guys, I'm Legarda, a British Filipino travel blogger, and in this video I'm sharing my top 10 things to do in Manila in the Philippines. Manila is one of Asia's most vibrant cities. Manila and the Philippines in general is a hodgepodge of cultures and customs that add to the authenticity of the city in general. As we say, Manila is a halo-halo, or a mix of all the people and cultures that have come before it and influenced the language, culture, the food, and the traditions in any kind of way. Travelers specifically have a very love-hate relationship with it. I think this has something to do with Manila having less of an authentic Asian vibe and more of an overtly westernized, colonized vibe. But of course, that is because colonialism is a thing that has been prevalent in Philippine history. But being westernized doesn't make Manila any less of an authentic destination to visit. My advice: embrace the chaos of Manila. Whilst Manila might be built up with skyscrapers and terrible traffic, local culture and delicious street food can be found on every corner. So let's jump into the list and see what tickles your fancy. They say the quickest way to a culture's heart is through its food. So of course, the first thing I recommend doing is heading to a Filipino street food market. Local markets are a must-do of any country or city or place because they are full of life, teeming with local produce and delicacies to try, and if you are a foodie like me, then you are definitely gonna want to check out Filipino street food to see what the locals call tasty. Filipino street food markets are perfect for getting a cheap deal and immersing yourself in local cuisine. If you go to vetted markets such as Sendries in Quezon City, or if you're based in Makati, Salcedo Market in Jamie Velasquez Park, you can trust that the food is well cooked with a high hygiene rating. I would prefer buying food from the local market just because if you have a sensitive stomach, you might prefer knowing that these stall holders are much more likely to use quality produce and have stronger hygiene standards, possibly, than the street food vendors you find at a roadside. Some of the delicacies I recommend are trying out fresh bibingka, puto, suman, having green mango and bagoong, which is fermented shrimp, a very strong flavour. I also recommend the delicious sweet treats of turon or banana Q, which are kind of deep fried, caramelized banana desserts. And then you can, of course, crack open a fresh buko or young sweet coconut to sip on as you walk around and keep you feeling hydrated in Manila's heat. If you're feeling adventurous, you can try out adidas, which is the affectionate street slang term for chicken feet on a stick, or you can try isaw, which is chicken innards twisted on a stick. Don't knock it till you've tried it. Nothing edible gets wasted in this country, FYI, so if you are not faint of heart, give it a go. While we're on the subject of street food, the next thing I recommend you do in Manila is trying to eat balut, otherwise known as fermented duck egg. So what's balut? Basically, and I'm sorry to vegans and vegetarians, you might want to turn a blind eye right now, but it is fermented duck fetus cooked inside its own eggshell. The fermentation lengths for the fetus vary from 12 to 24 days. There is a special way of eating balut that involves puncturing the membrane and slurping the soup. You can normally find balut vendors on the street more towards the evening, or of course they are usually roaming around the street food market. Sellers tend to carry their balut eggs inside a plastic cooler box, so keep an eye out for one of them. Now, balut has done the rounds on YouTube, for example, with lots of different people trying it out, retching and gagging, but actually, if you've ever eaten an egg, it's basically like eating a boiled egg, except there's half a duck fetus lodged inside it. There's pretty much no difference between eating that and eating an adult duck or having a boiled egg. I think it's just an explosion of flavors that I'd never personally experienced before in this cuisine, and I'm a big fan of saying try anything once, especially if it's food. And it won't be for everyone, but it's a very interesting culinary experience. If you consider yourself a foodie, then this is something that you might want to try. I'm not going to go into the ethics of the delicacy because it is so heavily ingrained into Philippine and Asian culture that it would be very pointless for me to do so, and I'm not here to preach. But if you are in Manila, then when in Rome, do as the Romans do and try out some balut. Have you ever tried balut? Drop me a comment and let me know how your experience was. The next thing I recommend doing in Manila is watching the sunset over Manila Bay. I'm pretty sure Manila is one of the best cities in the world to watch the sunset go down in. Day after day, dusk after dusk, Manila's sunset glows this crazy beautiful shade of neon orange pink, and it is glorious to behold. If you are a photographer or just an iPhone photographer, or you just love to bask in the beauty of a beautiful sunset, then I really recommend heading to Manila Bay and watching sunset happen. The sunset is gorgeous from wherever you are, especially a rooftop, but for those absolutely stellar views, I would head straight to the water. There's always a group of camera enthusiasts right at the line of the water, waiting with their cameras and their tripod set up, so make sure you snag yourself a great view as well. I would head over around 5 o'clock to beat the traffic, set up in a great place, or you can have a drink and some merienda or a snack at any of the restaurants or cafes that line the waterfront. Even though you are probably keen to avoid shopping malls, because I know I usually am if I'm traveling, one of the best views of the sunset is actually from the SM or Shuma Mall of Asia. If you're going to a mall, it might as well be one with a view. So the SM Mall of Asia, also known as MOA, M-O-A, is beautiful and it gives you great photo opportunities, especially with the Ferris wheel cast against the sky. You can go to the top floor where all the restaurants are, grab an outdoor table, or just watch as the day turns to night when you're having a little drink. There's usually music and laughter floating down the Sunset Boulevard as well, which is lovely. I promise the sunset will make you forget about the hideous traffic in Manila, at least for a little while. My next tip is eat fresh seafood at Dampa. If you're not allergic to seafood, then you absolutely need to have the Dampa experience. It's the perfect thing to do after watching the sunset at Manila Bay. In essence, the Dampa experience involves going to a wet fish market, buying your catch that you want to eat for dinner, whether that's sea bream or lobsters or shrimps or prawns or crab, and you can buy all this fresh seafood for an extremely reasonable price. You then take that fresh seafood you've just bought to one of the many restaurants right next door, where they will cook it according to any style you want on the menu. It's so good, it's so affordable. I really recommend the salted egg crab, which is smeared in garlic and butter and some salted egg. And even though your heart will be palpitating after a couple of bites, it's honestly so worth it for that Dampa experience. I also recommend taking a tour of Intramuros, also known as Old Manila. Intramuros is well known as the historical and cultural hub of Manila. Whether your thoughts on Manila are positive or negative, visiting Intramuros and having a tour will really clear things up for you and help you understand why Manila is the way it is. Multiple colonizations will do that to a city. I would recommend going to Intramuros in the morning when it's not so humid and it's not so busy, because the dry heat and humidity will get you dehydrated quicker than you can say H2O. The legacy of the Carlos Celdran walking tour lives on. Carlos Celdran was an actor based in Manila, and he did the most fantastic Intramuros tours that really told you about the Japanese occupation, about the American influence, about Spanish colonization, and I honestly left after that tour with so much more knowledge. The tour was wildly theatrical, very controversial, and also very funny. And it's emblematic of a Filipino's sense of humor. So if you can find a great walking tour that's highly rated, I really recommend doing that. Around Intramuros, as well as checking out beautiful historical buildings and roaming the cobble streets and having a lovely little treat, there's also horse and carriage rides you can do and lots of photo opportunities that abound in this beautiful historical walled city. Next up, I recommend riding a tricycle or a jeepney. You can't come to Manila and stay fettered up in Ubers and cabs and Grabs the entire time. Jump into a tricycle and experience Manila the five-wheeler way. Tricycles are essentially a small cabin on 3 wheels attached to a ped or a motorbike. So essentially a tricycle is kind of like the Philippines version of a tuk-tuk, where you throw out your arm, you hail a tricycle and you get onto your destination. I've seen tricycles pass by which had about 12 people on it. Really impressive, though probably a bit unsafe. You should stick to riding your own one with a friend or by yourself. If you need to go a little further along, journey-wise and distance-wise, than a tricycle can take you, I do also recommend hopping on a jeepney. They're much cheaper to get around than a taxi, and you'll get to experience the chaos of weaving through Manila traffic just like the locals do. Jeepneys are convenient if you're not in a rush, but bear in mind, if you are over 5'8", for example, I am 5'10", then you might have some trouble with not banging your head when you get on and off the jeepneys because the ceilings are fairly low. Although jeepneys can get packed at busy times, it costs about 8 to 10 pesos per ride. You can talk to the locals, it gives you insight into the way locals travel, it's a fun experience to get around the city, and it gives you the opportunity to chat to people as they get to work or to school or wherever they're going. Better yet, if you have the time, why not take a jeepney tour? They're not too expensive, they come with drinks and beverages, you'll cover more ground, sometimes there's an onboard karaoke machine, and again, it's just a great way to meet people and see Manila from another perspective. My next tip is have a hilot massage. Traveling is stressful. Manila's traffic is stressful. Life in general can be a bit stressful. So take a load off and go and get a traditional hilot massage while you are in Manila. Hilot is a Filipino style of massage that is quite similar to Swedish massage, and it involves a very firm hand and pressing to get all of those knots and tension out of your shoulders, out of your body, and leave you feeling completely renewed. There are some super affordable, super talented masajistas or massage therapists in Manila. For as cheap as 200 pesos in some places, you can get an excellent hilot massage. Manila also has quite a few express spas where you can drop in for a massage at any time. There are also very skilled masajistas who are mobile, so they will come to your house or condo or hotel room with their table and set up for you for as little as 500 pesos per hour. Please treat your masajistas nicely because they work very hard. Don't be lechy and gross, don't ask for any happy endings, respect the craft of massage, and of course remember to tip. Thank you. Next up, I recommend that you try halo halo. You can't come to Manila, or the Philippines in general really, without trying halo halo. Halo halo, which I explained earlier, means mix mix, is a sweet and popular dessert known around the world for being not only delicious but also a great representation of the country in general. Halo halo is a hodgepodge of different sweet treats and ingredients like ube or purple yam ice cream, leche flan, pinipig, which is crunchy nuts, coconut jelly, shaved coconut meat, fruit, sweet corn, red bean, and of course shaved ice, all drizzled with condensed milk. You can get halo halo from anywhere, including street food vendors or at fast food chains like Chowking or Jollibee, but where I really love getting it from is proper Filipino restaurants. They always use the best quality ingredients, and usually they will freeze their ice with condensed milk, which is super yummy. For me, the best places to get halo halo in Manila are Milky Way Cafe in Pasay Road or Rockwell, Razons, which is a chain, or Kabigtings in Quezon City. And if budget is a problem, then head to Chowking. My next tip is to explore the local neighborhoods and possibly do a slum tour. There is great wealth and great poverty literally side by side in some areas. I'm not into the idea of poverty porn at all, but it's really important that when you come to Manila, you don't just spend all your time in built up places or just in the fancy areas of Makati. It's really, really important that you see how a significant percentage of the population live day to day, hand to mouth. I suggest that you take a walk through the city's slums or lower income areas, though of course be sensible, use common sense, and do it during the daytime. Probably in a tour is best. The way that some people live in the Philippines is quite shocking. It's shocking because hundreds of thousands of people in Manila alone don't have access to basic living conditions. Exploring a neighborhood like this is going to give you an eye-opening insight into the terrible living standards of millions of people around the world, and maybe instill just a little bit more gratitude for the privilege you have of having basic access to things like food, water, a roof, a house, and the ability to travel. It might even motivate a sense in you to want to do something to help, and every little helps. The next thing I recommend is experiencing Manila's nightlife and trying out some karaoke or KTV. Hibernating from the heat of day is allowed. Just make sure you don't miss out on the nightlife in Manila, which is awesome and which can be very, very cheap. For example, a bucket of 8 San Miguel beers can cost anywhere up to 200 pesos. There's a place to suit all types in Manila. Whether you drink or not, whether you like live music or not, the city is your oyster. The best recommendations I find are from word of mouth, as it really depends what you are into. If you're looking to bar hop on foot, I do recommend starting with the well-known areas, for example around Poblacion, Fort, and downtown Makati. Also, as you may well know, Filipinos love to sing, and strangely, most Filipinos are pretty amazing singers. So consider hitting up a karaoke bar or a KTV spot with your nearest and dearest for a night of raucous singing, laughter, and letting it all out on the mic. The musical culture is so much fun, and you'll probably come away from the karaoke bar with a lot of new friends. I do also want to remind you to be respectful and open-minded when you go and visit Manila. As with any destination, as long as you go in with a positive perspective and a very open mind, then you will have a great time. Please also remember to just dismantle your ego or expectations and just understand that this culture is very different to yours if you are not from the Philippines. Treat people the way you expect to be treated. Politeness and big smiles go a really long way. Like most places, I think Manila is best enjoyed if you have a local friend or buddy who can show you around and bring you right to the good spots. Sometimes visiting Manila can be a bit of a culture shock too, but even if you don't know anyone, Filipinos are some of the friendliest people in the entire world. The minute you tell them that you're looking for someone to hang out with, they will open their door and invite you in to meet their whole family and community. So let me know, have you done any of these things in Manila? Have you got any other recommendations for first timers or people who want to explore new things in the city? Drop me a comment with your experience below. If you found this guide useful, please do like and subscribe because it helped me so much. Maraming salamat, and I'll catch you in the next video.